Zara Veltar pressed her blue fingers against her temples and tried to block out the noise in her head. The trading station was busy today, and every alien mind around her was shouting their thoughts and feelings into her brain. The Corvin traders were angry about fuel prices. The human merchants were excited about their cargo. The Zephyrian pilots were tired and wanted to go home. Being telepathic was supposed to be a gift. Her people, the Alterians, were known across the galaxy for their mental abilities. But sometimes Zara felt like she was drowning in other people's emotions. She walked through the crowded market area of Kepler Station, looking for a quiet place to work. Her lab was on the other side of the station, but she needed to pick up some supplies first. The voices in her head got louder as more people filled the corridors. Then she felt it. Silence. Not the empty silence of space, but something different, like a calm lake in the middle of a storm. Zara stopped walking and looked around. Most minds felt like bright lights to her telepathic senses. This one felt like cool, deep water. She found him fixing a broken wall panel near the food court. He was human, with brown hair and quiet brown eyes. His hands moved carefully as he worked on the wiring. When he concentrated, his face looked peaceful. Zara had met many humans before. Their minds were usually very loud. They felt everything strongly and thought about many things at once. But this human was different. His mind felt quiet and controlled. She walked closer and pretended to look at the nearby shops. The man finished his work and packed up his tools. He wore the gray uniform of a maintenance worker. His name tag said Jake Morrison. For the next few weeks, Zara found herself looking for Jake around the station. She learned his schedule and would often eat lunch in the food court when he was working nearby. His quiet mind was like a safe place for her. When she was near him, the other voices in her head seemed less loud. Jake was polite but shy. He said hello when he saw her, but he did not talk much. Sometimes she caught him looking at her, but he would always look away quickly. Zara had never met anyone whose thoughts she could not read at all. One day, Zara was having trouble with a broken computer in her lab. She called maintenance, and Jake came to fix it. While he worked, she asked him questions about himself. "Have you worked here long?" she asked. "About 2 years," Jake said. He did not look up from the computer. "Do you like it here?" "It's quiet. I like quiet places." "Where did you work before?" Jake's hands stopped moving for just a moment. "I worked for Earth's government. Nothing important." Zara felt something strange when he said that. For just a second, his mental silence seemed to crack. She felt a tiny bit of something dark and cold. But then the feeling was gone, and his mind was quiet again. "What kind of work?" she asked. "Just office work, boring stuff." Jake finished fixing the computer and packed up his tools. "This should work now." After that, Jake started visiting her lab more often. Sometimes he brought her coffee or asked if she needed help with anything. Zara found herself looking forward to his visits. His quiet presence helped her think clearly. Slowly, they became friends. Jake was a good listener. He never judged her for being different or for complaining about hearing too many thoughts. He understood what it was like to want peace and quiet. One evening, Jake brought dinner to her lab. Zara had been working late and forgotten to eat. They sat together at her desk, sharing the food and talking about small things. The station was quieter at night, and Zara's telepathic headache was almost gone. "Thank you," she said, "for being so quiet." Jake looked confused. "Quiet?" "Your mind. Most people's thoughts are very loud to me, but yours are peaceful. It helps me feel better." Jake was silent for a long moment. "I'm glad I can help." That night, Jake kissed her for the first time. It was gentle and careful, like everything else he did. Zara felt completely safe with him. They were married 6 months later in a small ceremony in the station's garden. Only a few friends came to watch. Dr. Alex Carter, the human doctor who was Jake's only close friend, gave a speech about finding peace in a busy universe. Commander Lisa Grant, the station's security chief, wished them happiness. Jake had asked for a very simple wedding. He said he did not like crowds or attention. Zara agreed because she understood. Both of them preferred quiet places and quiet moments. Their new life together was perfect for Zara. Jake worked his maintenance shifts during the day. In the evenings, they would cook dinner together in their small apartment. Jake had started a little garden in one corner where he grew earth vegetables and flowers. Jake was the most peaceful person Zara had ever met. He moved slowly and thought before he spoke. He never got angry or upset. His emotions were always calm and controlled. When Zara used her telepathic abilities around him, she felt like she was floating in warm, still water. The only strange thing was how little Jake talked about his past. He had no pictures from Earth. He never mentioned family or friends from before. When Zara asked about his childhood or his old job, Jake would give short answers and change the subject. But Zara did not worry about it. Everyone had things they preferred not to talk about. She was happy to have found someone whose mind gave her peace. For 8 months, they lived quietly together. Jake fixed things around the station. Zara worked on her research projects. In the evenings, they would sit in their garden and watch the stars through the station's windows. Jake would hold her hand and they would not need to talk. Zara thought she had married the most gentle man in the galaxy. Everything changed on a Tuesday night. Zara was working late in her lab, trying to finish an important experiment. She was alone and the station was quiet. She was handling a piece of broken equipment when her hand slipped. The sharp metal cut deep into her palm and blue blood began to flow. The cut was bad. Zara felt dizzy and scared. She pressed her other hand against the wound and called for Jake on her communicator. "I'm hurt," she said. "Please come to the lab." Jake's voice sounded different when he answered. "How badly? What happened?" "I cut my hand. There's a lot of blood." "I'm coming. Don't move." Jake arrived faster than should have been possible. The lab was far from their apartment, but he was there in just a few minutes. He must have been running. When Jake saw the blood on her hand and on the lab table, something changed in his face. For just a moment, his eyes looked cold and sharp. His body became very still, like a hunter watching its prey. And in that moment, Zara felt his mind. The quiet, peaceful silence was gone. Instead, she felt something that made her blood freeze. Jake's mind was analyzing the lab like a battlefield. He was counting exits and looking for threats. His thoughts were calculating 17 different ways to kill someone with the tools on her desk. The feeling lasted only a second. Then Jake's mental walls came back up, and his mind was quiet again. But Zara had felt it. The man she married was not what he seemed. Jake wrapped her bleeding hand in a clean cloth and helped her to the medical center. He was gentle and caring, exactly like always. But now Zara knew there was something else hiding behind his peaceful face. Dr. Carter treated her cut and gave her medicine for the pain. Jake stayed with her the whole time, holding her other hand and speaking softly. He seemed worried and loving, like any husband would be. But Zara could not forget what she had felt in that one moment. Jake's mind had not been quiet at all. It had been full of violence and death, controlled and hidden behind perfect silence, They walked home together. Zara looked at her husband with new eyes. Who was Jake Morrison, really? And what was he hiding from her? The next morning, Zara watched Jake make breakfast. His movements were exactly the same as always. He cracked eggs with gentle hands and hummed quietly while he cooked. But now she noticed things she had missed before. Jake always stood where he could see both the door and the window. When he walked through the station corridors, he never had his back to open spaces. At the market, he seemed to accidentally bump into people, but Zara realized he was always positioning himself between her and strangers. These could be normal things. Maybe Jake was just careful. But the memory of his mind in that moment would not leave her alone. She had felt something cold and dangerous hiding behind his peaceful face. 3 days later, their neighbor Mrs. Patterson came to their door. She was crying and very upset. "My cat is missing," she said. "Whiskers got out somehow. I've looked everywhere, but I can't find him. The station is so big and there are so many places he could hide." Jake put down his coffee cup. "I'll help you look." Zara expected them to spend hours searching. The station had thousands of rooms and corridors. A small cat could hide anywhere. But Jake found Whiskers in 20 minutes. He came back carrying the frightened cat, which he handed gently to Mrs. Patterson. She was so happy she almost cried again. "How did you find him so fast?" Zara asked after their neighbor left. Jake shrugged. "I just thought about where a scared cat would go, somewhere dark and quiet with only one way in." But Zara had seen the route Jake took to find the cat. He had moved through the station like he had a map in his head. He knew exactly which ventilation shafts connected to which rooms. He knew where all the maintenance tunnels led. That was not normal knowledge for someone who just fixed broken things. A week later, Captain Ryan Brooks came to the station. He was a human military officer on what he called a routine inspection, but Captain Brooks spent more time in the civilian areas than checking security. Zara was having lunch in the food court when she saw Brooks talking to Jake. They sat at a corner table, speaking quietly. She could not hear their words, but she could see Jake's face. He looked tense and unhappy. "We need you back," Brooks was saying when Zara got close enough to listen. "I told you before." "I'm done with that life," Jake replied. "The situation has changed. Earth needs experienced operators. Find someone else. There is no one else with your skills." Jake stood up from the table. "I'm married now. I have a different life. I'm not going back." Brooks looked disappointed but not surprised. "Think about it, Jake. You know where to find me if you change your mind." After Brooks left, Zara asked Jake about the conversation. Jake said it was just old business from his previous job. Nothing important. But Zara could tell he was lying. That night, she tried to research Jake's background on the station's computer system. What she found worried her more than what she did not find. According to official records, Jacob Morrison had died 3 years ago in a classified Earth military operation. The man she had married did not exist in any government database. His identification papers were perfect, but they had no history behind them. Zara dug deeper, using her research access to check Earth's public records. She found news articles about the operation where Jacob Morrison supposedly died. It had happened on a distant planet during a conflict with raiders. The reports said there were no survivors, but Jake was alive and working on Kepler Station, which meant either the reports were wrong or Jake was not who he claimed to be. The next day, Zara confronted Jake in their apartment. She showed him what she had found on the computer. "Explain this," she said. Jake looked at the screen for a long time without speaking. His face was calm, but Zara could sense tension in his body. "I can't," he finally said. "What do you mean you can't?" "Some things are classified. I'm not allowed to talk about them." "Even to your wife?" Jake sat down heavily in his chair. He looked tired and sad. "Especially to my wife." "Is Jake Morrison even your real name?" "It is now." Zara felt frustrated and frightened. "I don't understand. Are you a criminal? Are you hiding from the law?" "No," Jake said quickly. "I never hurt innocent people. Everything I did was for Earth's government." "Then why the fake identity? Why does everyone think you're dead?" Jake was quiet for several minutes. Finally, he looked up at her with serious eyes. "My old job was very dangerous. The kind of work where enemies try to hurt your family to get to you. When I retired, Earth gave me a new identity to protect me, and to protect anyone I might care about." "What kind of work?" "I can't tell you that. Jake, I'm your wife. I need to know who I married." Jake reached for her hands. "You married someone who loves you more than anything in the universe. Someone who will never let anything hurt you. That's all you need to know." But it was not enough for Zara. She was a scientist. She needed facts and evidence, and something about Jake's story did not make sense. If he had just been a government worker, why would he need such deep cover? Why would Captain Brooks want him back so badly? And most importantly, why had she felt such controlled violence in his mind? Over the next few days, Zara paid more attention to Jake's behavior. She noticed that he always knew when someone was walking up behind them. He could identify the sound of different people's footsteps. When they went to crowded places, Jake seemed to know where every person was without looking directly at them. These were not the skills of an office worker. They were the skills of someone trained for combat. Zara also noticed that other humans on the station treated Jake differently. Not badly, but with a kind of careful respect. Commander Grant always nodded when she saw him, like she was acknowledging an equal. Dr. Carter sometimes looked worried when he talked to Jake, as if he was afraid for his friend. One evening, Zara was walking home from her lab when she heard fighting in one of the side corridors. She turned the corner and saw 3 Corvan pirates threatening an elderly Zephyrian trader. The pirates had weapons and were demanding money. Zara was about to call security when Jake appeared. She had not seen him coming. He moved so quietly that even she had not heard him. "Leave him alone," Jake said calmly. The pirates laughed. "Go away, human. This is not your business." "I'm making it my business." The biggest pirate pointed his weapon at Jake. "You want to die for this old fool?" Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was cold and dangerous. "You can try." What happened next was so fast that Zara almost missed it. The pirate moved to shoot, but Jake was already moving. In 3 seconds, all 3 pirates were on the ground. Jake had not used any weapons. He had defeated them with his bare hands. The elderly trader thanked Jake and hurried away. Jake helped the unconscious pirates to their feet and told them to leave the station. They were so scared they could barely walk. Only then did Jake notice Zara watching from the corner. "How long have you been there?" he asked. "Long enough," she said. They walked home in silence. Jake looked worried and sad. Zara felt confused and a little frightened. Her quiet, gentle husband had just defeated 3 armed pirates like it was easy. That night, Zara lay awake, thinking. Jake was not a normal maintenance worker. He was not a retired office employee. Everything about his background was a lie. But he had never lied about loving her. She could feel that much, even through his mental barriers. Whatever Jake was hiding, he was hiding it to protect her. The question was, what could be so dangerous that even knowing about it would put her in trouble? 3 days later, Zara got her answer. She was working late again when alarms started ringing throughout the station. Commander Grant's voice came over the speakers. "Security alert. Armed intruders in Section 7. All civilians shelter in place." Zara's lab was in Section 7. She tried to call Jake, but the communications were jammed. Through her lab's window, she could see figures in black armor moving through the corridors. They had military weapons and moved like professional soldiers. Zara hid under her desk and tried to stay quiet. She could hear the intruders searching nearby rooms. They were looking for something, or someone. "Where is the ghost?" one of them shouted in the corridor. "Check every room," another replied. "He has to be here somewhere." Zara did not know what they meant by the ghost, but she had a terrible feeling that she was about to find out. The lab door exploded inward. 3 armed figures entered, their weapons raised. Zara pressed herself against the floor and tried to make herself invisible. "Clear," one of them said. "No sign of the target." "Keep looking. He won't leave his wife unprotected." His wife. They were talking about her, which meant they were looking for Jake. Zara realized with growing horror that the intruders were not random pirates or criminals. They were here specifically to find her husband, which meant Jake's past had finally caught up with him, and she was the bait they planned to use to draw him out. The intruders left to search other rooms, but Zara knew they would be back. She tried to think of a way to warn Jake, but the communications were still jammed. Then she heard something that made her blood freeze. Footsteps in the corridor. Quiet, careful footsteps that she recognized. Jake was coming to find her, and he was walking straight into a trap. The footsteps stopped outside Zara's lab. She held her breath and listened. For a moment there was complete silence. Then Jake's voice came through the broken door. Quiet and deadly calm. "I know you're in there. Let my wife go, and we can talk." One of the intruders answered from somewhere in the lab. "The ghost finally shows himself. We've been looking for you for a long time." "Not long enough, apparently. You're still alive." Jake stepped into the lab, and Zara barely recognized him. His face looked the same, but everything else was different. He moved like a hunter. His eyes were cold and calculating. The gentle man she had married was gone, replaced by something dangerous and controlled. "3 of you," Jake said, looking around the room. "Poor planning. You should have brought more." The leader of the intruders stepped out from behind a lab table. He kept his weapon pointed at Jake, but seemed nervous. "We just want to bring you home. Earth has a job for you." "Earth thinks I'm dead. I like it that way. Your country needs you, Jake. The hegemony is planning something big. We need experienced ghosts back in service." Ghosts. Zara finally understood what they were talking about. Jake was not just a former soldier. He was something much more dangerous. "I retired," Jake said. "Find someone else." "There is no one else. You know that. The Ghost program only trained 12 operatives. 4 are dead. 3 are missing. 2 went insane. That leaves you and Stone." "Stone is enough. Stone is good, but he's not you. You're the best ghost we ever created. They talked about Jake like he was a weapon instead of a person. Jake's eyes found Zara hiding under her desk. For just a moment, his cold expression softened. "Are you hurt?" Zara shook her head. She wanted to run to him, but something in his face told her to stay where she was. "Good," Jake said. His voice became cold again. "Now you're going to leave my wife alone and get off this station," the intruder leader laughed. "You think you can take all three of us? You've been retired for 3 years. You're out of practice." Jake smiled, and it was the most frightening thing Zara had ever seen. "Would you like to test that theory?" What happened next was like watching a deadly dance. The three intruders were professional soldiers with military training and advanced weapons. Jake had no weapons at all. It did not matter. Jake moved like water and struck like lightning. He used the lab equipment as weapons and the furniture as shields. In less than 2 minutes, all three intruders were unconscious on the floor. Zara had never seen anything like it. Jake had not just defeated them. He had made it look easy. Jake checked to make sure the intruders were unconscious, but alive. Then he helped Zara out from under the desk. "Are you hurt?" he asked again. His voice was gentle now, but his eyes were still cold. "No," Zara whispered. "Jake, what's happening? Who are these people?" Before Jake could answer, Commander Grant arrived with a security team. She looked at the unconscious intruders and then at Jake. "Ghost 7, she said. It was not a question. Jake nodded. "Hello, Lisa." I was hoping I'd never have to use that designation again. Commander Grant turned to her security team. "Take these men to the holding cells, full restraints and constant guard." After the security team left, Commander Grant looked at Jake and Zara. "We need to talk. All of us." They went to Commander Grant's office where Dr. Carter was waiting. Zara realized that both of them had known Jake's real identity all along. "Sit down, Zara," Dr. Carter said kindly. "This is going to be a lot to understand." Jake sat beside her and took her hand. His touch was warm and familiar, but Zara could still feel the cold violence hidden beneath his calm surface. "Tell me everything," Zara said. Commander Grant activated a privacy shield around her office. "What do you know about Earth's special operations?" "Nothing," Zara admitted. "Most people don't. That's the point." Grant sat down across from them. 30 years ago, Earth created a classified program called the Ghost Protocol. The idea was to train operatives so effective that one person could complete missions that would normally require an entire army. "What kind of missions?" Zara asked. "The kind that officially never happened," Jake said quietly. "Eliminating terrorist leaders, sabotaging enemy weapons, gathering intelligence from impossible locations, fighting wars without anyone knowing. There was a war." Dr. Carter leaned forward. "The psychological conditioning required to create a ghost is extreme. They had to suppress normal human emotions like fear, guilt, and empathy. Otherwise, the operatives would break under the pressure." Zara looked at Jake with new understanding. "That's why your mind feels so quiet to me. You've been trained to hide your emotions." "Not hide them," Jake corrected. "Remove them, at least during operations. A ghost can't hesitate or feel sorry for enemies." "We had to become something close to machines." "How close?" Zara asked, though she was afraid of the answer. "Close enough that most ghosts can't have normal relationships," Dr. Carter said sadly. "The psychological barriers that make them effective also make them unable to form emotional connections. But Jake is different," Commander Grant said. 3 years ago, he broke his conditioning. He started feeling emotions again. That's why he went rogue. Jake squeezed Zara's hand. I met you 6 months after I broke my conditioning. You helped me remember what it felt like to be human. What was your last mission? Zara asked. Jake was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was full of pain. I was sent to eliminate a terrorist cell that was planning to attack Earth colonies. But when I got there, I found out the terrorists were actually civilians, families with children. Earth's intelligence was wrong, but my orders were to complete the mission anyway. What did you do? I refused. I warned the civilians and helped them escape. Then I disappeared. Earth declared me dead to avoid admitting their mistake. Zara felt sick. Earth had ordered Jake to kill innocent people, and when he refused, they had erased him from existence. That's why those men came looking for you? The hegemony is planning to invade human space, Commander Grant explained. Earth's regular military isn't enough to stop them. They need their ghosts back. All of them? Jake is the only one who's still functional and mentally stable, Dr. Carter said. The others are either dead, missing, or psychologically broken. Zara understood now why Jake had hidden his past. He was not just a former soldier. He was a living weapon that Earth wanted to use again. What happens now? She asked. Before anyone could answer, the office door opened. A woman in an Earth military uniform walked in. She was older, with gray hair and sharp eyes. Commander Grant and Dr. Carter both stood up quickly. General Miller, Grant said. We weren't expecting you. Plans change, Commander. General Miller looked at Jake. Hello, Ghost 7. You look well. Susan, Jake said. He did not stand up. You shouldn't have come here. Your wife's station is about to be destroyed by the hegemony. Where else would I be? Zara felt cold fear run through her body. What do you mean, destroyed? General Miller sat down without being invited. The hegemony has developed new weapons, plasma bombs that can destroy entire space stations. They plan to test them on multi-species stations like this one. Why? Zara asked. To send a message. They want every species in the galaxy to know what happens to anyone who allies with Earth. Jake's hand tightened on Zara's. How long do we have? Their fleet will arrive in 6 days. Our regular forces can't stop them in time. We need someone to infiltrate their command ship and sabotage the weapons before they can fire. Send Stone. Stone is good, but this mission requires the best. It requires you. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Zara could see families walking through the station corridors, children playing in the parks, thousands of innocent people going about their daily lives. What's the catch? Jake asked. To be effective again, you'll need to undergo psychological reconditioning. Your emotional barriers will have to be rebuilt. Zara felt her heart stop. What does that mean? Dr. Carter looked sad. It means Jake would become a ghost again. Fully. The conditioning would suppress his ability to form emotional connections. He wouldn't love me anymore? He might not be capable of love at all, General Miller said bluntly. That's the price of making him effective enough to save this station. Jake turned around, and Zara saw pain in his eyes. There has to be another way. There isn't. You know that. A ghost without full conditioning is just a very skilled soldier. You need to be something more than human to succeed at this mission. Zara stood up and walked to Jake. She took his hands and looked into his eyes. What do you want to do? I want to save you, Jake said simply. I want to save everyone on this station, but I don't want to lose you in the process. "The choice is yours, Ghost 7, General Miller said. "But choose quickly. The hegemony fleet is already moving, and we have a lot of preparation to do." Zara realized that she was about to lose her husband either way. If Jake refused the mission, the hegemony would destroy the station and kill them both. If he accepted, the reconditioning would take away the man she loved and turn him back into a weapon. "Is there any chance he could come back?" she asked Dr. Carter. "After the mission?" "I don't know," Carter admitted. Jake broke his conditioning once before, but that was unusual. Most ghosts can never return to normal emotional functioning. Jake pulled Zara close and held her tight. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I never wanted this life to touch you, Zara." Zara and Jake spent their last night together in their small apartment. They did not talk much. Instead, they sat in Jake's garden, holding hands and watching the stars through the window. Zara tried to memorize everything about this moment. The way Jake's hand felt in hers, the peaceful expression on his face, the gentle way he touched the leaves of his plants. In the morning, all of this would be gone. "Are you afraid?" Zara asked quietly. Jake was silent for a long time. "Not of dying," he finally said. "I'm afraid of forgetting how to love you. Even if you forget, I'll remember for both of us." Jake turned to look at her. "Promise me something. Anything. If the conditioning works too well, if I become someone you don't recognize, don't try to bring me back. Just let me go and find someone who can love you the way you deserve." Zara felt tears on her cheeks. "I can't promise that. Please, Zara, I need to know you'll be happy. I'll be happy when you come home to me." They held each other until dawn came through the windows. Dr. Ben Taylor arrived on a fast Earth ship that morning. He was a specialist in ghost conditioning, a quiet man with tired eyes. Zara did not like him immediately. "The reconditioning process will take about 6 hours," Dr. Taylor explained to them in the medical bay. "We'll use a combination of drugs and psychological programming to rebuild the emotional barriers." "Will it hurt?" Zara asked. "Physical pain? No. Psychological pain?" Dr. Taylor looked at Jake. "It will feel like dying and being reborn as something else." Jake sat on the medical table and took Zara's hand. "I'm ready." "No," Zara said suddenly. "There has to be another way." Dr. Taylor shook his head. "I'm sorry. This is the only way to make him effective enough for the mission." "What if I go with him? I could help him stay connected to his emotions." "Absolutely not," General Miller said from the doorway. "This is a military operation. I'm telepathic. I can monitor his mental state and help him maintain emotional connections during the mission. You're a civilian with no combat training. But I know Jake better than anyone. I can reach parts of his mind that your conditioning can't touch." Jake squeezed her hand. "She's right. My connection to Zara is what broke my conditioning the first time. If she's with me, I might be able to stay human even with the barriers in place." Dr. Taylor looked interested. "It's theoretically possible. The emotional bond could create a pathway through the conditioning." General Miller did not look happy. "It's too dangerous. We can't risk civilian lives on a theory." "You're already risking civilian lives," Zara pointed out. "Everyone on this station will die if the mission fails. At least let me try to help." After an hour of arguing, they reached a compromise. Zara would stay on their ship during the mission, using her telepathic abilities to monitor Jake's mental state. She would not participate in the actual infiltration, but she could provide psychological support from a distance. The reconditioning began that afternoon. Zara sat in a chair next to the medical table, holding Jake's hand while Dr. Taylor worked. She could feel the drugs taking effect in Jake's mind. His thoughts became slower and more controlled. His emotions started to fade. "Tell me about the first time you saw Zara," Dr. Taylor said. This was part of the process. He would identify Jake's strongest emotional memories and then build mental walls around them. "She was in the market," Jake said. His voice was becoming flat and emotionless. "Her mind felt quiet to me, peaceful." "How did that make you feel?" "Safe, like I could rest." Dr. Taylor made notes on his computer. Zara watched Jake's face become more and more blank as the hours passed. The man she loved was disappearing behind cold professional barriers. "Tell me about your wedding day," Dr. Taylor continued. "Small ceremony, garden, few friends." Jake's answers were getting shorter. The details that had once made him smile were becoming just facts. "How did you feel when she said she would marry you?" Jake hesitated. For a moment, Zara felt a flicker of warmth in his mind. "Complete," he said finally. Dr. Taylor frowned and adjusted something on his equipment. The warmth disappeared, and Jake's mind became cold again. By evening, the process was finished. Jake sat up on the medical table and looked around the room with new eyes. They were sharp and calculating, like a predator studying potential threats. "Ghost 7 reporting for duty," he said to General Miller. Zara felt her heart break. Jake's voice was the same, but there was no emotion in it. He looked at her like she was a stranger. "Do you remember your wife?" Dr. Taylor asked. Jake studied Zara's face. "I remember the information about her. Zara Veltar, Alterian scientist, married 8 months ago, currently assigned to provide telepathic support for the mission." "Do you love her?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "Love is not relevant to mission success." Zara felt tears on her cheeks. But Jake did not seem to notice or care. Commander Rick Stone arrived the next day. He was another ghost, a tall man with scars on his hands and empty eyes. When he saw Jake, he smiled for the first time since arriving. "Good to have you back, partner," Stone said. "Good to be back," Jake replied. They spoke like old friends, but there was no warmth in either voice. Zara watched them plan the mission together. They worked with perfect efficiency, their minds calculating odds and strategies. They talked about killing hegemony soldiers like other people talked about the weather. "The command ship will have approximately 200 crew members," Stone said, pointing at a holographic display. "We'll need to eliminate the bridge crew and the engineering staff." "Estimated time for complete neutralization?" Jake asked. 30 minutes if we work together. 40 if we have to split up. They were planning to kill 200 people in less than an hour, and they talked about it like it was a normal part of their job. "What about prisoners?" General Miller asked. "No prisoners," Jake said simply. "They're too dangerous to leave alive." Zara felt sick. This was not the man she had married. Jake had become exactly what Dr. Taylor had said, a weapon that looked like a person. The mission began 2 days later. Their ship was small and fast, designed to avoid detection. Zara sat in the communications room, wearing a headset that would let her monitor Jake's thoughts during the infiltration. As they approached the hegemony fleet, Zara reached out with her telepathic abilities. She could barely feel Jake's mind. It was like trying to touch something through thick glass. "Ghost 7, this is Base," she said into her microphone. "Can you hear me?" "Confirmed Base. Signal is clear." Even over the radio, Jake's voice was cold. and empty. But Zara thought she felt something when he heard her voice. A tiny crack in his mental barriers. Jake and Stone used a stealth pod to reach the Hegemony command ship. Zara watched their progress on the sensor screens and listened to their communications. "Entering target vessel," Stone reported. "No resistance detected." "Proceeding to engineering," Jake added. As the mission continued, Zara felt Jake's mind becoming even colder. The ghost conditioning was working perfectly. He moved through the enemy ship like death itself, eliminating guards and disabling systems with perfect efficiency. But something was wrong. Jake was supposed to sabotage the weapons and then escape. Instead, he seemed to be planning something else. "Jake," Zara said into her microphone, "what are you doing?" "Completing the mission," he replied. "The mission is to disable their weapons." "You've already done that." "Negative. The mission is to prevent the attack on Kepler Station. The weapons can be repaired. The ship and crew cannot." Zara realized with horror what Jake was planning. He was going to destroy the entire command ship, killing everyone aboard, including himself and Stone. "That's not necessary," she said. "You can escape now." "Escape is not guaranteed. Destroying the ship is the only way to ensure mission success." Zara felt panic rising in her chest. The conditioning had worked too well. Jake was willing to die to complete his mission, and he did not care about coming home to her. "Jake, listen to me. I need you to come back. Personal relationships are not relevant to mission success." But as he said it, Zara felt another crack in his mental barriers. Somewhere deep inside, a part of Jake was still fighting the conditioning. "Do you remember our garden?" she asked. Irrelevant information. "You grew earth flowers for me. You said they reminded you of home." Jake was silent for a moment. Zara felt his mind hesitate. "You taught me how to make earth food," she continued. "We would cook together every evening." "Base, please maintain operational silence," Jake said, but his voice sounded less certain. "You held my hand when I was hurt. You made me feel safe. Base, you are compromising mission security. I love you, Jake Morrison, and somewhere inside that conditioning you still love me too." For several seconds there was only static on the radio. Then Jake's voice came back, and it sounded different. Still controlled, but with a hint of warmth. "Zara? I'm here. I remember. You helped me feel human again." The mental barriers were cracking. Zara could feel more of Jake's real personality coming through. "Come home to me," she said. "I don't know if I can. The conditioning is very strong." "Fight it. You did it once. Before. That took years. And I had you helping me every day. Then we'll do it again. Together." Stone's voice interrupted them. "Ghost 7. What's your status? We need to complete the mission." Jake was quiet for a long moment. Zara could feel him struggling with the competing voices in his head. The conditioning told him to complete the mission at any cost. But his love for her... The journey back to Kepler Station took 3 days. During that time, Zara watched Jake struggle with the competing voices in his head. Sometimes he was her loving husband, gentle and caring. Other times, the ghost conditioning would take control, and he would become cold and distant. "It's like having 2 different people in my mind," Jake explained during one of his lucid moments. "The conditioning wants me to return to Earth and accept new missions, but my love for you fights against it." Dr. Carter met them when they arrived at the station. He examined Jake carefully and ran several tests on his brain activity. "The conditioning is still active," Carter told Zara privately. "It's fighting against his natural emotions. This kind of internal conflict could drive him insane. There has to be a way to help him." Traditional therapy won't work. The ghost conditioning is too strong. We need something different. That night, Zara lay awake next to Jake, listening to him talk in his sleep. Sometimes he spoke to her lovingly. Other times, he recited mission protocols and target elimination procedures. She realized that the battle for Jake's mind was happening even while he slept. The next morning, Zara made a decision. She was going to use her telepathic abilities to enter Jake's mind directly and help him fight the conditioning from the inside. "It's too dangerous," Dr. Carter warned when she told him her plan. "The ghost conditioning could attack your mind as well. You could be trapped inside his psyche." "I have to try. I can't watch him tear himself apart." Zara prepared carefully for the mental link. She meditated for hours, strengthening her telepathic defenses and focusing her mind. Then, with Jake's permission, she reached into his thoughts. What she found was like a battlefield inside his head. Jake's natural personality was fighting a desperate war against the ghost conditioning. His memories of love and happiness were under attack by cold, logical programming that tried to eliminate all emotional responses. But as Zara moved deeper into his mind, she discovered something amazing. The conditioning had not destroyed Jake's emotions. It had redirected them. All of Jake's capacity for love and protection had been channeled into an absolute dedication to defending innocent people. Every person on Kepler Station had become an extension of his family in his subconscious mind. The ghost conditioning had not made him heartless. It had made his heart so large that it included everyone he was sworn to protect. Zara realized that this was humanity's true strength. Humans did not fight because they enjoyed violence. They fought because they loved so deeply that they would become anything necessary to protect their families and friends. The Ghost program had tried to eliminate human emotions, but it had actually weaponized them. Jake's love for her had grown, to include all of humanity and then all innocent life everywhere. He was not a monster. He was the logical extreme of human devotion. Working carefully, Zara began to help Jake integrate both sides of his personality. Instead of fighting the conditioning, they embraced it and redirected it. Jake's skills as a ghost could be used to protect people without losing his ability to love. "You don't have to choose between being a weapon and being human," Zara told him as they worked together in his mind. "You can be both. A guardian who fights not because he can't feel, but because he feels everything." The process took weeks. Sometimes Jake would relapse into cold professionalism. Other times he would be overwhelmed by emotions he had forgotten how to handle. But gradually, he learned to balance both aspects of his nature. During this time, news arrived that changed everything. The hegemony's remaining fleets had heard about the destruction of their command ship. Instead of retreating, they were spreading word throughout the galaxy about what had happened. One human operative infiltrated our most secure vessel and destroyed an entire fleet, the hegemony broadcasts said. "Earth's soldiers are not normal beings. They are something much more dangerous." But the hegemony leaders did not understand what had really happened. They thought Jake had succeeded because humans were naturally violent and ruthless. They did not realize that he had succeeded because he was protecting people he loved. General Miller returned to Kepler Station to debrief Jake about the mission. She expected to find either a fully reconditioned ghost or a broken man struggling with psychological damage. Instead, she found something entirely new. "I want to propose a new training program," Jake told her during their meeting. "Instead of suppressing human emotions to create ghosts, we should integrate them. Make operators who fight because they care, not because they can't feel." "That's impossible," General Miller said. Emotions make soldiers hesitant and unreliable. No, Zara interjected. Emotions make them stronger. Jake succeeded on his mission because he was fighting for something he loved, not just following orders. Jake stood up and walked to the window overlooking the station's civilian areas. Families were walking through the corridors, children were playing in the parks, and aliens from dozens of species were working together peacefully. Look at them, Jake said. Every person down there is someone's child, parent, or friend. When I was fully conditioned, I saw them as mission parameters to protect. Now I see them as family. Which version of me do you think would fight harder to keep them safe? General Miller was quiet for a long time. The psychological evaluation would never approve such a program. Then change the evaluation standards, Zara suggested. Instead of testing for emotional suppression, test for emotional strength. Find people who love so deeply that they'll become whatever is necessary to protect others. Dr. Carter joined the conversation. Jake's brain scans show increased efficiency in all areas. His cognitive functions are actually improved when his emotions are integrated rather than suppressed. It makes sense, Jake added. The original ghost conditioning required enormous mental energy to maintain the emotional barriers. Without those barriers, my mind is free to focus entirely on the mission. Over the following months, Jake and Zara worked with Earth's military to develop new training protocols. Instead of creating emotionless weapons, they created guardians who fought with the full power of human love and dedication. The new program was tested with volunteers who had strong emotional connections to their communities. The results were remarkable. These new operatives were more effective than the original ghosts, but they remained psychologically stable and capable of forming normal relationships. News of the program spread throughout the galaxy. Other species began to understand that humanity's strength did not come from their technology or their tactical skills. It came from their incredible capacity to love and protect others. The hegemony's remaining forces reconsidered their invasion plans. Fighting an enemy that became more dangerous when they had something to protect seemed like a very bad idea. Jake returned to his job as a maintenance worker on Kepler Station, but now everyone knew what he really was. He was not just a former soldier or a reformed weapon. He was a guardian who would do anything to protect the people around him. In the evenings, Jake and Zara would sit in their garden and watch the stars through the window. Jake's mind was no longer silent to Zara's telepathic senses. Instead, it sang with love, determination, and an unshakable promise that nothing would ever harm the people he had chosen to protect. "Do you ever regret breaking your conditioning?" Zara asked one night. Jake considered the question seriously. "The conditioning made me efficient, but love makes me effective. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Efficiency is completing the mission with minimal resources. Effectiveness is making sure the mission actually protects what matters." Zara smiled and leaned against his shoulder. "So, love really is humanity's greatest weapon?" "No," Jake said, holding her close. "Love is humanity's greatest strength. The weapon is what we're willing to become to protect that love." Word of Jake's transformation spread throughout the galaxy. Diplomatic messages began arriving from dozens of species who wanted to understand how humans could be so peaceful in daily life, yet so terrifying when their families were threatened. Zara and Jake found themselves serving as unofficial ambassadors, explaining human nature to alien delegations. They helped other species understand that humans did not fight because they enjoyed violence. They fought because they loved so completely that they would sacrifice everything, including their own humanity, to protect others. The hegemony eventually sent a diplomatic envoy to negotiate a peace treaty. The envoy met with Jake and Zara in the station's conference room. "We do not understand your species," the hegemony representative said. "You appear gentle and peaceful, but you fight like demons when threatened." "We fight like parents protecting their children," Zara corrected, "because that's what every human battle really is. Humans see all innocent life as family." "That is why we fear you," the envoy admitted. "An enemy that fights for territory or resources can be negotiated with, but an enemy that fights for love cannot be reasoned with or intimidated." Jake leaned forward. "Then don't give us reason to fight you. Work with us instead of against us. Help us protect innocent people, and you'll find that humans make better allies than enemies." The peace treaty was signed 3 months later. The hegemony agreed to abandon their expansion into human space in exchange for trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Years later, Jake and Zara became teachers.